Are you shifting your pressure in your golf swing early enough? For the majority of golfers, it's definitely a no, and it's a real key part to improving your ball striking, but also maximizing your distance. I've got for you a really simple drill that's going to help you feel that new movement. Make sure you check it out. So what I was trying to feel or achieve there with that exercise, with that drill, that step drill, was shifting my pressure towards my lead foot a lot earlier in the downswing. But I was actually also doing a little bit for the backswing. So the majority of golfers are shifting, but they're shifting way too late. So I tend to see golfers, if we talk about the backswing just for a second, they actually should get their peak amount of their pressure under their trail foot, so the one that's furthest away from the target, when they're about 3/4 the way back at left arm parallel. That's where the majority of elite golfers are, around 80%. Well, what I tend to see is actually golfers then carrying on and getting more and more and more and more into their trail foot by the time they get to the top of the golf swing. Whereas what we see with the majority of elite golfers is by the time they get to left arm parallel and hit their peak, as they now finish the backswing, their pressure is already starting to even out, i.e. it is going forwards towards the target. And they tend to end up at the top of the golf swing at a figure nearer 50-50, okay? So they're getting to that 80% earlier, and then they're actually shifting into their lead foot way earlier. So we tend to see with elite golfers an earlier shift of pressure towards their trail foot and a much earlier shift on the downswing. When golfers are over, and I get some who are basically everything, you know, I've measured it 99% over on their trail foot at the top of the golf swing. Now, if they're going to get anywhere near 80% onto their lead foot at impact, they're going to have to do it with an almighty shift of their bodies. They're actually then moving their mass rather than shifting their pressure. When we're talking about pressure shift, we don't want to obviously see a big body movement that is shifting my mass. I'm talking about how much force I'm applying to the ground through my feet. So we want to see a much earlier shift towards our trail foot and a way earlier shift towards our lead foot at the start of the downswing. That shift helps me recenter my body, helps me compress the golf ball, gets me into a position where I can now start to rotate and extend. So I'm starting to actually maximize and use those other forces in the golf swing to propel the ball further. So the drill, let's do it one more time for a sec, was set up as normal. And this can work with any golf club. I'm just using a mid-iron here. So set up as normal. Move your lead foot towards your trail foot. So they're just around a club head's width apart. Start with the club just out and past the golf ball, so it's a little bit closer towards the target. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing back, and by the time I get to, or before I get the feeling of getting to 3/4 the way back, I'm going to actually step with my lead foot. So as I get to the feeling of almost halfway back, I'm going to actually start moving my lead foot. And you can see my arms are actually finishing the backswing, even though my pressure is moving towards the target. I've recently filmed a video more with the driver talking about hips forwards, head back. I'll put a link just here that's well worth checking out. That is again talking about that early shift of pressure towards our lead foot at the start of the downswing. And the only difference we really see with a driver to an iron is that same pressure shift, the same amount of lateral movement, but we tend to see, because we're hitting up on a ball off a tee, the ball's more forwards, we tend to see the good players react and the head actually goes backwards or stays backwards, even though, again, I'm shifting my pressure towards my lead side. So, set up, step the lead foot towards the trail foot, club past the golf ball, and let's go for it. So hopefully what you'll see there, let's do another one, is a much earlier shift of my lead foot towards my trail foot than you would perhaps feel comfortable with. When I see golfers trying this for the first time, they tend to be way too late. So they finish their backswing, now they step their lead foot, and they just look all awkward, out of sequence. If you think about most sporting movements, you know, It might be easier if the ball was moving, but if the ball was flying at you like in a baseball type of situation, we'd be shifting our pressure towards our lead foot, even though my arms and the bat are still back here. So there'd definitely be that shift this way towards my lead side. Almost this is the last thing that's being moved towards the target. So, much earlier than you think. I'm not worrying too much about the direction. You can see I'm hitting pretty much down. I mean, that was a good one. Pretty much down my target line. Now that one flew out there about 160, finished about 170 with a 7-iron, so pretty good yardage as well. But the sound of that contact, that feeling of shifting towards my lead side is what I really want to get from it. I'll have shown you here as well how that actually looks standing on the force platform. So you'll have seen there those pressure shift numbers, how early it was towards my trail foot, how early it was towards my lead foot at the start of the downswing. Now putting that into an actual golf movement without shifting my feet, I'm just trying to again get that feeling of a slightly earlier shift. So there is some pelvic movement. My center of my pelvis and my hips should be moving a couple of inches away from the target early on in the golf swing. And I will put a link here, rather than discussing it too much detail, a video I filmed really recently talking about how the hips should be moving. I titled it, "Are You Swaying?" because a lot of golfers are worried about that, whereas actually there needs to be some lateral movement away from the golf ball, or sorry, away from the target, and there needs to be some very early towards the target. We're just teaming that with that rotation, so well worth checking that out. But I'm trying to feel like I shift into my trail side, slightly behind the golf ball, but early. And before I even complete my backswing, I'm starting to apply some pressure, some force into my lead foot. Now you could always, to help you get that feeling on a driving range, put a ball, or maybe cut up a tennis ball and put half a tennis ball underneath that lead heel. And you're just going to get that sensation of squashing the ball, but doing it before we actually complete our backswing. Okay, so my arms are still moving back, even though I'm actually applying the pressure, the force down onto that ball that's under my lead heel. So that's another good exercise after you've done that step drill. That was the worst strike of the bunch. I actually hit the drill swings better, even though that went nicely down my target line. Let's hit one more. Early shift back, very early into my lead foot at the start of the downswing, like I'm squashing that ball underneath my lead heel. My hips, my center of my pelvis will definitely be moving forwards towards the target. There we go. That was more like it. Just going to be a touch left, but that one was really long actually. That one flew over 170 with a 7-iron. So some really good yardage with that one. Definitely got that same feeling in terms of shifting my pressure and a lovely contact. Give that step exercise a go. Initially, you're going to feel very clumsy if you've never done it before. You're going to get the timing completely wrong and you're probably going to go, I can't do it. Stick with it. You can. You've just got to actually move a lot sooner than you think. So you've got to feel like by the time your arms get to halfway back, they're actually replanting that lead foot towards the target. And it's really going to help your quality of strike and help you start to generate some more speed. Hit the thumbs up, this video has helped. Make sure you check out my other content by subscribing to my channel. You'll never miss a video again. Right now, YouTube is suggesting the next video of mine that you should be watching that's right here. So click on that at the same time.